Today I'm going to be kind of reconfiguring how this rear lower bunk is put together. I have a 26 DBL. It's a Forest River trailer, and for those of you that have this, you know that prior to this panel's here, and it houses an outlet and the carbon monoxide sensor. But I've seen some posts on, Etsy and stuff like that where people have converted this from being completely outside storage or unutilized space to interior storage and maybe a little less exterior access storage. So I'll move the camera over here and show you kind of what we're working with. All right, so I have the removable panel already taken out, and I got the rest of the plywood kind of propped up right now. So what I've done so far, one, if you're any kind of tradesman, it'll probably bug you the quality of work that they did back here, but it is what it is. So this piece right here used to sit right here, and so it's cut the height already. And what you'll see is I also took out the other cheap little veneer plywood panels that was a pseudo barrier to the storage area over here. And you'll see the original little tack strip that they used to connect that to. Also, you'll notice back here, the pump, the outlet for the water heater, and a couple of these are mine, but there's a zip tie screw fitting thing that was also kind of holding these wires down. So as you'll see, they took no time to make sure that these weren't all entangled with the hose lines or anything like that. Just completely lazy. Additionally, this whole thing was cut out and all the wires just laying out here, just completely lazy and just shoddy freaking craftsmanship. So what I've done so far is I cut up further so that I can run the wires in between that brace. I also had to disconnect the outlet because one of these feeds the second outlet, and one of them's the power in. So I'll reroute that. Probably just end up putting it somewhere in here anyways. But try to tidy up how these kind of wires are run. What I figure I'll do from here is frame out a little bit more support here so I can connect some plywood to it to actually segment this off. I also might potentially get a barrier, a foam barrier here to insulate this a little bit more, because this kind of all is not insulated super well. So my oldest daughter, is a little bit more susceptible to the wind and stuff coming in. So that's what's happening so far. The only thing I might have to kind of tweak is the wires that they have to the fuse for the water pump are a little short. So I might just put in an extra piece of wire there, get some distance to it. Then I got to figure out, do I want to reconfigure any of this to be neater, so that I still want the water pump on this side of the wall that I'm going to put up, but I still need to make sure it's accessible. So at least that there's a good place to put that, and go from there. So I'll be probably just doing some time lapse or speed up the video of me plugging away at this and give updates as it happens. So what I've kind of decided to do first is get this water pump repositioned. Figure getting that over, making sure I can still get to it on this side of the wall from the exterior cabinet is probably the best bet. And once that's kind of in place, I kind of get everything else tidied up in here. All right, so that's probably gonna be the extent of the cleanliness for right now, because my primary focus is to get this all finished in that I can get kind of straightened up later. In all reality, the compression fittings, I'm not sure if those are one use only, so I don't really want to mess with them right now. We're gonna go out in 2 weeks and I'm out of town camping, and I'm out of town next week, so it's kind of my only weekend to do this. But got the wires kind of cleaned up a little bit to this point. This is your plug for your water heater. Biggest things I gotta get untangled, there's coaxial cable hookups, satellite, and it looks like the control wires for the water heater. So I will come back to that eventually, but next steps are going to be build another little subframe right here, brace this corner where this used to be. I think this side's good since this is still underneath it, but brace this subframe and then plywood it up and call it good for now. Sorry about the background lawnmower noise, but it's a nice day out. So I was gonna build a subframe for the rest of that middle part underneath the bed, but I got to thinking about it. There's no subframe under there in the first place, so I don't really need to build one. So instead, what I'm gonna do, I have this 2x4 piece of MDF that's a 1/2 inch thick. So I just need to rip down 1 inch off of it, which I'll use this cut edge guide and skill saw for that. But I need 23 inches. This is 24. I figure I'll rip that inch off and then I'll install that. That will support further back than the little sub wall that's in there. And then I can just use something else to kind of finish off the rest of it and go from there. So one of the other things I had to consider when it came down to taking out that angled wall and putting it in this cubby was positioning of this outlet. So the way that this one hooks up, it's a you push both wires. So black's over here, white's over here, ground's in the middle. But put both of them in there. Wires stick out the bottom. The screws up here don't actually screw in. What it is this little white tab bites the back of whatever you inset this into. So one of the things I got to get positioned is where I want this outlet on here, so I can cut a hole and then I can This will stick through into the storage area on the back, right? But they'll be flush and you shouldn't have to worry about too much. So get that mocked up and cut out so that when I go put it in, I can easily install. All right, so might not be the premier RV builder's job, but definitely gonna do for now for this trip, first trip out for the year. So kind of recap, pulled out the entire front panel, repurposed that little faux wall here, rerouted the wires that were just kind of sprawled out all over the place, up through here, kind of over into there. when I have more time, I'll kind of go through and tighten everything up and neaten it up and probably disconnect some things and just make it a lot more permanent. Um, Rip down a piece of MDF, compression board stuff, remounted the panel, rewired the wires back down over it, put a secondary panel back there. The only thing that this will like make kind of more difficult is winterizing, but same thing. Take a couple screws out of this and you can get into it just as easy. So now this whole thing's opened up. Here's one of the old panels just kind of behind this, just to kind of cover that hole a little bit. Put a new brace in so that this corner is reinforced. And that should really do it for right now. I might bring a foam board as far as insulation to put across this, or a couple pieces. I haven't really decided yet. The other thing that I'll have to figure out is this here. So both of those boards will sit on top of this. So that means I'll have like a, 1.5 1.25 inch gap if you're looking at it this way. So figure that out. Maybe I'll just get some foam pieces just for that and like glue them in just so there's a little more of a barrier for temperature control. But that'll do. I'm gonna button this back up, put some screws back in that, and then call it good for now. Thanks for watching. So I decided to get one more video with kind of put back together. So instead of blocked front here and pretty much all that back there not being utilized now, especially for my girls' stuff, we can start sliding stuff back in there, bags, clothes, all that kind of stuff, and give them a little bit more storage space for their little bunk houses. So all done. It'll do for now, and then eventually I'll probably finish it up a little bit, either like paint this or maybe even put a little touch light in there so you can see back in there once we're putting stuff in there.